go with big earrings.
Old pearl earrings.
Okay, welcome to 42, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans, based on the 21 grams experiment by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. On this videocast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. In this episode, we're speaking to Brown Girl Magic, a name that shows up regularly in my gratitude jar, a consistent teacher for me. She's been with me through all my adulting moments over the last 2 decades. She's full of love, not afraid to have tough conversations, and the reigning queen of nerd points. Miss Faiza Zarin Venzant. Hi!
Are you saying that because I wore like my best pandemic sweatshirt for you today?
No, because I think...
How many points do I get for that?
I feel like you've already capped on points, but in most of my conversations with people, they're always like, "Oh my god!" Like people look at you and think that life is easy. You're like everything for you is just simple, and they don't see this like human element of you. And I think I'm always so lucky and blessed to be like, "Oh, I get to see when Faiza walks into doors." When you...
Thanks.
I mean, people, it never happens. Oh, it hasn't happened in a while. Or when you are just journeying through life, and it's such a gift for me to be like, when people are like, "Oh yeah, she wrote a book. Oh my god, it's so easy. How did she do it?" I'm like, people, she puts in the work. I get to see the work you put in, the choice you make, the tough choices you get to make on a regular basis, the conversations you have with your husband, with your loved ones, to make sure that life...
I only have one husband, not husband.
Sorry, your husband. But he's so amazing that it just feels like his,
He is.
Your husband, your family, your loved ones. And you're so rooted in what you are. You know who you are, and you are guided by that regularly.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just feel like the nerd points is like, I don't think we don't count nerd points anymore, but people don't realize... People in my conversation don't always be like... I was
they don't realize
also human.
It's Olympic, the amount of nerd points that I have. Like, people don't realize that.
Yeah. And if they never realize it moving forward, it's fine. But that it exists.
Oh my god, I'm having like flashbacks of like I think it was like one of those TFLC dinners, and I'm like, "Hey guys, let's go!" And I walked like right through, like right into like a glass window. And like for me, I'm like, whatever, like recover, let's move on. But I always have to wait. Like if you're witnessing a nerd point, I always have to like wait for you to react, have your laugh or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, can we just move on? Like let's just go.
It's so funny you bring that moment up because I feel like TFLC dinner happened. It was summertime. We're all dressed up in like our summer best, and Zora and I were standing on this side of the window, having a conversation, and you were on the other side of the door, and it happened. And I remember like, I don't remember what Zora and I were talking. We were talking, and also we just turned and we were like, and couldn't stop laughing. Oh, TFLC dinners. Oh.
Yeah, Shafik, I was trying to think about like before this conversation, I'm like, what's my first memory of you?
Right.
What's yours of me?
That's so funny. That's my very first conversation to you. Was what this?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're in sync.
Okay, so for me, it was Wilda Jamaat Khana in a hallway, in the school hallway, like the original George Vanney Wilda Jamaat Khana school hallway. I feel like you're wearing your glasses and a flowy dress with a sweater.
All right. So for me, it's Wulid Al Khane, in the Khani Hall, in the front, on the women's side, to the right, like where the benches start for the seniors. Yeah. I'm not wearing my glasses. You have like the mushroom cut, like you have the mushroom cut. And it's after Khane. So like it's after Khane and it's like after variety show practice. Like that's what I think about. I'm like, oh, it's variety show practice. But you were like an interloper. You did not go to Willard Al Khane at that time. You went to a different Khane.
Right.
You and a bunch of people came after Khane. After your practice at your Khane, came to our Khane. Okay. And I just remember like the carpets were out. So it couldn't have been like a Sunday. It was like probably Friday or Saturday because no one was rolling up carpets. But that's my first memory of you. I was sitting down and you were standing up and like you and some people walked over. Like that's what I remember. So probably around the same age. I think we're thinking about the same age.
Yeah, 100% the same age. I think like for me it was like I had just left Thorncliffe. Like I Varai from Nairobi was in Thorncliffe. Those were my people for 3 years, for two
Yeah.
years, but they never felt like they were my people because I moved there and there were all these immigrant kids from Kane. But
Yeah.
for me, I was always a theater kid, and I wanted to, and I had, the year I'd come to Willow Kane is the year I'd went to George's Henry,
Yeah.
and I'd started theater, and I was like, oh my god, these are actually my people. And then you were one of the Somali people in Willow Kane who did theater and music, and I was like, oh, like I feel like my soul was like this. I understand this person because stepping from Thorncliffe come to here, being like, oh, like we get to do this. Well, in Thorncliffe, dance and stuff was only a variety show thing. Like none of those kids came out of there being like, I'm going to be a performer. They
Mm.
all came out of there being like, I need to be a doctor, a lawyer, support my family. And the only time they could be creative was a variety show. Meanwhile, in Willow Kane, you were the only other person there that was like, yeah, this is part of who I am and part of my career. Like it was such a big, at that point in your life, such a big part of who you were. And I remember being, oh my
Yeah.
god, this is my person. Like, you checked off all those boxes of like, Ismaili, dancer, like performer. I remember being excited about that, being like, oh, I want to be friends with this person
And I
for the rest of my life.
remember, yeah, and I remember like up until that point in my life, all my friends, like all my really close friends, were Ismaili, right? And it's really that Jamaat that raised me, and I'm
Yeah,
so grateful. Like I'm really grateful for that. It's not something I'm so in touch with right now, um, today, because who we what we're this conversation is just really today,
yeah,
how we're feeling in this moment. But um, and I remember, like with you, I just felt like you understood that there was more to experience outside of going to school and then going to Connie every night and on the weekends. And so I felt like you were somebody that understood that, and it was like safe to explore that. And um, there were people in our community who did not approve of, or did not encourage, or did not support me singing, or like doing musicals, or doing
yeah,
things outside of Kane. Um, and I remember, like at that time, feeling like starting to feel a little bit of a disconnect, right? Like starting to
yeah.
feel like I don't think this is all of my identity. I think this is an important part of who I am, but I think that there's other parts of me that I want to explore that aren't going to happen in this space.
Right. Thank you for mentioning that. I feel like you were the same safe space for me as well. Anyway, I think you allowed to push those limits, right? So where we were like, oh, like yes, we did partnership walk, yes, we did all these things, but then outside of that, what else was there? And there was so much more
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I remember a conversation we had where we're like, we're gonna do more than just these smart. Like we did these smiley things. We were so involved with them at least till our second year of university. And
Yeah,
then it was
yeah.
like, well, the Imam's not doing everything just for, like, he does stuff for a global world, not just for Jamaat. And I remember a very specific conversation where we're like, I'm going to stop doing this stuff and take all my skills and apply them globally or to
Yeah,
other parts.
yeah.
And that, I think, I was like, oh, good. We can, like, it was an allowance to be able to do that with myself as well.
Yep. And
And
that's like
grow.
that's what I've my career right now, right? Is
Yeah.
growing up, like seeing my parents volunteer, and then being a volunteer and being in the junior volunteer corps and the Smiley volunteer corps, a very colonial like system. It was very easy for me to like. I was like, I want to do this. Like, I really believe in the power of volunteerism and how transformative it is, and how easily you can access your connection to your local community, and then like the global community, right? And even not just people, like animals on the earth, and understanding your connection that way. And so I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing. Like I've been in the volunteer engagement space for over 20 years if I had not had that introduction to it, through being a Smiley, like through our faith community.
No, 100%. And I think for the kids who are coming up, this, like, all our foundational stuff came from there, and we have to honor it and say, great, we got that, but we outgrew it really quickly, or
Yeah,
quicker than I think our predecessors did,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was okay. I think like kids nowadays are growing out of it way earlier. Like I think of Farah Kamani, for example. I think like at the age of 16, she was already like, okay, I've outgrown this. I'm gonna still do it because it's part of a legacy, or her partner's family was a part of it,
Yeah.
but was already ready to be like, where else can I go? What else can I do? And even though she navigated in this Somali space, she was still trying to like burst out of it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's like, um, you know, look, when I think about it generationally, like I think about my parents, like coming to
Yeah.
Canada, like all the fear that they were, they were 25 years old at that time and raising, it's just my mom had just had a baby.
Yeah.
Um, and, I don't know, like we don't talk about it in depth, like what that was like for them. But I think I try to imagine like what would that have been like without social media, without, people, Google and things to find answers for, like things that make things a lot easier for us. Like what was that like? And it makes sense to me how drawn they were to the Ismaili community and how important it was in for their mental health, right? For their social well-being and for their connection, trying to create this identity of being Canadian and making that fit, and then for us, like, and more so for me than you because you immigrated here a lot later, right? And
Right.
you, how old were you? Like 14?
10.
10. Okay, 10.
But we met, yeah,
Oh
but
my
we met at
God, have
14.
we
I
known each
still
other
have
that?
that. Yeah.
How long have we known each other?
I think at 15, I feel like 14, 15 is when we met. But I
Oh,
was
we're so
still like
old.
very fobby about, like, I still hold my fobbiness. Like, I feel like you will always have nerd porns. I was also have my metal fob with me all the time. Like the white pants, white shirt, and the flipped hair is a part of who I am.
Oh my gosh, it is, right? All of this is part of who we are. And even
Right.
like when we talk about outgrowing or like wanting to like seek other experiences, I don't think it's like, for me, it's not a rejection of that upbringing. It's just that I appreciate that and I honor that, and I'm so happy that that is part of who I am. Um, but I'm just happy that there are other things to explore. There are other communities to be part of,
Yeah.
and we can do that. And now, when I have my kids growing up, like they're gonna have lots of places. Hopefully, like they'll have lots of places where they feel like they can belong and that they can learn, and maybe not feel feel as though every one community has to serve all of their needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson I think you have taught me over and over, where you're like, yes, we get this from here, but there's so many other, like, one person or one thing can't give you everything,
Yeah.
and for your own personal growth, exploring that is important.
Yeah, it's true. Like one person can't give you all of those things
Right.
except for yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
you can be many things for yourself. But I mean trying to find the you as my best friend. Like you can't satisfy every need that I have as a human
Right.
being. My husband can't do that. My kids can't do that. My other friends can't do that. And it's okay. And like one thing that you really taught me, because there was a time I think where you and I just did everything together, right? And
Right.
experienced like so many things together. And, but we walk in different shoes, right? And so for you, like coming out, I had to be like, you know what? It's okay for Shafik to want to be part of other communities and for me not to be part of them. It's okay for him to have friends that aren't going to be my friends and who I might not even really like or like have anything in common with, because he needs to be able to feel safe and explore and be part of different communities the same way that I might have like my mom community that you might not have anything in common with or relate to. um, this is so interesting, like how this has carried through our lives.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah,
like I
interesting.
think back to that moment in my life. Like we did so many things together, and then like all of a sudden this new, like I came out, and I almost feel like coming out is like the second puberty all again, and to have
Yeah.
a best friend there. I mean, besides you hanging up when I told you I came out.
Well, can we just
That's
clarify for everyone?
yeah.
That's not what happened.
Let's clarify. That's not what happened.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
The phone
We were
died.
having a conversation on the phone,
Right.
and this is when like Carmen Minaj was first dating, and he was like completely monopolizing the landline, and we had this oh my
We had
God,
just gotten
we had
cell phones.
we had a cell phone that was probably like this big, right? And so you and I were having this like super long conversation on the cell phone, and I'm pretty sure like at that time when cell phones like would start to lose their battery, they would like start beeping, and I don't know why you chose that time to like come out at that time. So basically you're like, Faiza, I have something to tell you, I think. And I don't know what language you used specifically. You're like, I'm gay, and then the phone
Died.
died. And what you didn't see on the other end was me running down the hallway, all steps that it took me to get to Karim's room at the end of the hallway, like screaming at him, get off the fucking phone, like get off the phone with Minaz. Like I love Minaz, but in that moment I did not love their love at all. And I was like, I gotta call Shafiq back. I have to call him back like, right now. It was like so big. And like called you back. And then I remember the first thing I said to you, because there was something in me that realized, okay, this is a split. Like this means that he's gonna have to go and do his own thing. And I remember feeling that. Maybe I didn't have a language for it, but I remember trying to create a tie with you and saying, like, listen, like I think the first thing I said to you was like, yeah, whatever, you're gay, like it's fine, whatever. But if you need to have kids, I'll be the one to have your kids for you, right? I tried to like make this connection. I remember that so clearly. And I remember for such a long time, like I didn't want to have kids, and I'm like, shit, what if he comes back to me and is like, can I take you up on that? I'm gonna have to be like, yeah, I did say that I would.
I mean, the kids you have now, I will take in a heartbeat because they're literally like magical, and I'm so glad that you've allowed me to be part, like from the get go, part of them. I feel like meeting Chaim at like less than a week into his coming to the world. Malik was less than a few days, and I remember Malik being this big. Like I remember looking at him and being like,
this big.
Oh my god, I can't touch him because I'm gonna break him, and we could see right through him.
Could see through his skin. Yeah. It's so funny because Irvin will say to me, you know, like in quiet moments, like, you know, gosh, do you remember when we could see through his skin? Like, do you remember when he didn't have eyebrows or eyelashes? And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah.
I also remember in that moment, your body wasn't recovered. I remember like you're like, I need help. I need to get to this hospital every day to just be with this kid and show them his love. And for me, it's such a like being able to see you from a teenage girl to where you are now as a mom. How love has been such a big part of not. I don't even think you choose love. I think you're guided by love. I think like it's such a staple in who you are.
Yeah.
And do you like? I'm trying to pinpoint a moment where that clicked in for me, and I can't remember. I feel like that's always been who you are, and it's always been how you've guided yourself. Was there like? Do you remember a moment where you specifically said, "I'm going to choose to"? Actually, but let me take that back. No, let me ask you if you know this. So, do you remember a moment where that changed for you? Where you're like, "I'm going to choose to make all my decisions or guide my life moving forward with love"?
I don't. I remember like meeting people in my life or moments in my life where I understand that not everybody is guided by love, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I remember, I know that there are times, and everybody has this, where you feel very different from other people. Um, so, you know, I have like two parents who love me so much. Like I have two parents who to this day love me so much. And there's a confidence and there is a security in growing up with that, right? And it makes it easy to love when you're always met with love. I have two older brothers who love in their own ways, but I never never, ever, ever, ever have I ever questioned feeling loved. And then I have two incredible sisters-in-law who emanate that as well. So, you know, it has been points in time where I've recognized that privilege, right? That privilege of always having, you know, for other people might call it like their safety net or a soft place to fall. I've just always had that growing up. And so I think that's just why it's just very easy for me to do that. But I have met people, you know, who are hard to love, right? Like people like who I feel like, why is it so hard to love you? And then to realize that maybe that isn't something that comes naturally to them. And then there's a different kind of, you know, I've had to adjust that, like, not everyone is ready for you, Faiza. Like, not everyone is ready for your tough love, for your not so tough love. You know, like not everybody is ready for that. You know, and you and I have talked about this before, but like I'm down for like the most of uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And if I love you, I'll push you and I'll challenge you. And you know, you've had to say to me, and other friends have had to say to me, like, I'm just not ready for that right now. Like, that's not what I need from you right now. And I've had to be like, okay, just because I feel safe or just because I would be willing to hear that from you doesn't mean that we're in the same place right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing clicked in for me, but it has clicked in for me that is something that is unique to me in some of my relationships.
That's so fun. I feel like when you talk about your family, like your parents and and your sisters and your brothers, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it. I remember like also because I feel like there's a moment in life where like I was scared of your mom. Like like we were like, okay, we saw this coming. Like don't make eye contact. Like because I feel like she's got such a tough exterior until you get to know her, or she's like actually maybe it's not a tough exterior. She was a volunteer and she was doing her job, and her job sometimes meant being tough.
Yep.
But as a kid, I didn't register. I'll just have you like, oh
Yeah.
my god, why is this like I'm scared of this auntie? And then like once you break through that, like it's like a caramel gooey. You break that shell, and you're just like it's just oozing with love. And both your dad shows it way more, but your mom then you're just like she's just like love, love, love. Like no matter what she says, you're just like oh my god, I love you no matter what. Like there's so much love in
Yeah.
her that,
She
but it's
loves you.
oh
Yeah.
my god, and I love her to pieces. Like I feel like there's again with you, there's moments in life where I'm like, oh, if I don't till now, if I don't wear socks, I think of your mom. Like it's such a
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
or
that's like that's her thing, right? Is she would always like check your feet to see if you're wearing socks.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's her way of checking, are you okay? Or like
Yeah, and in
yeah,
Kanye,
yeah,
her generation, men always wear socks.
yeah,
So as doing her duty as a volunteer, she was like, "Why aren't you wearing your socks?"
yeah.
But it came from like, I think I was scared then. Also, we were also pushing boundaries back then, right? Like we were skipping Kanye to go to the mall, and like,
Yes,
so if
yes.
we got caught by her,
Well, I think she also knew that you were that person in my life that I was taking risks with, right? So
right?
she was a little bit like, are you going to get her into trouble? And then I think she realized, oh no, they're taking safe risks. Like they're okay. Like,
um, you have to say, I think there's this one moment that always in life I mean to ask you about this was that
yeah,
I th- I'm gonna say first year of working, you were
okay,
living downtown,
okay,
and somebody on Young and like on near Eden Center pushed you, or something
yeah.
happened, and then you followed them because you were 100% convinced that this person didn't do it on purpose. They were
Oh my God,
and
yeah,
I don't like. So I don't remember. Like again, I don't remember the whole story, but like you're like something happened. You were convinced that this person didn't do it on purpose, or it was just a moment in their life, and then you followed them until you saw them do something kind. Do you
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Do
I
you remember
remember
that?
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah. I don't know I don't know why I did that. There was something that I had read or probably something in that I was thinking about like deeply at that time. But we were walking somewhere and somebody like bumped into me or pushed me, didn't say sorry or was like preoccupied or something. And I'm like, we have to follow this person. Because I wanted to make sure they were okay. I think like I was like, is that person okay? Like, why would they just be so
yeah.
abrupt? Like, I need to just, I think there was something in me that's like, I need to follow them, make sure that they're okay. And I want to believe that there is like some goodness in this person. And I think that was in a time of my life where um, I just believed in like the goodness and kindness and everyone is good and everyone is kind. And that's a place of privilege that I sat in. I still believe everybody is capable of that. Bless you. I still, I still, is that Raheem?
It's Raheem. My wall. I don't have walls that go all the way, so you can sometimes hear him.
Oh, he can hear.
Faiza says, "Bless you."
Bless you. Hope it's not the Rona. Um, but I don't think I am that naive anymore. Like that I think that I'm a little bit more guarded. I'm aware that not everybody has my best interests at heart.
Right.
Um, but I still do believe that, you know, that there's goodness. Like people have goodness in them and
Yeah.
people have kindness in them, and that it's, you know, sometimes people forget. Like sometimes I think we all forget that we're responsible for each other. All of us are responsible for each other, and I truly believe that we're all responsible for each other. And along the way, you know, we've been taught lessons to make us think that some of us are better than others. um, I'm simplifying, you know, I'm simplifying lots of things here,
Right.
but um, I can recognize that more now.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. What made you think about that?
I think about it all the time. Like so. In the last I'd say the last few years in our life, when you said you recognize that when I came out, it was my moment of change. For me, I think when Irvin came into your life, I was like, oh my God,
Mm,
like I'm gonna. now if I look back, I was like, it was a grieving process. I'm like, I'm gonna lose this friend, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like not loss as in like this relationship's gonna change. Like we're not gonna be able to do this all the time because someone else has come into her life and she's moving forward. And in looking back, like as queer people, like you grew up in a very heteronormative world, so I always
Yes,
thought that my life was gonna
absolutely.
look like this, and I came out in a time where like Will and Grace just happened, or my best friend's wedding just happened. So it was almost like, oh, I could have a very heteronormative life, and a lot of my gay friends have had that life.
Yes.
But for me, at that moment, I was like, oh my god, Faiza's life is going to continue this way in a way that I've seen in the world.
Yeah.
And in relationship with past, and some of our other friends who've done this, there's been a loss where I was like, oh, they're going to be a mom, they're going to be this. I'm going to lose, I'm not going to be able to be with them that closely anymore
Yeah.
because they have other humans that to be a part of. And I feel like at that moment I had to be like, okay, I have to let her grow. Like this is Faiza's moment. I don't think I could verbalize it, but I was like, this is the moment for me to let her. Is our lives are going to change.
Yeah.
And you had reinforced for me many years ago was like, our friends will journey through this. It's just a time in their life. They're going to be busy with these other people, but they'll come back. And we've seen that with like Karima. Like we've seen that with other friends, and you've been
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
at showing that for me. And I remember consciously being like, okay, like we're gonna, because up until then, I feel like the wedding, like
What
there's
about
so
like
many.
other people, like other relationships I had? I guess you didn't feel, I didn't feel
No,
that. So yeah, you wouldn't have felt that. Yeah.
no, like, and
Yeah.
you were. It's very specific. It was with you and Salima Kamani. Like I feel like I draw these parallels with the two of you all the time. Where like
Yeah.
she's a sister that was born by blood, and you were a sister that was given to me by God. And I got this chance to like. It's that moment for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose five. I'm gonna lose five in a way, but I didn't. I feel like this happened, and then Kayam came into the world, and like I got to be part of that for almost a full year. And
Yeah.
like I actually got to experience these things that I thought I would have on my own, but I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
And through you, I got a chance to, right? I
Yeah.
got a chance to carry a baby in my shoulder for the like in a baby bassinet and be like, oh my god, I'm
The
gonna fall
carrier.
downstairs
Yeah.
and I'm gonna fall at the age here. And I was like, I'm gonna trip and this baby's gonna fall and be like, and I would have never had that chance,
Yeah.
right? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh. So even though I thought at that moment, I was like, oh, I'm losing Faiza, but we still had all these really great moments, and I
Yeah.
had to be like, I just have to go with the flow. Like you were one person who was still gonna do all these changes, but not. I got to be a part of every moment of it, and I still get to be a part of every moment of it, which I love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot what the question was, but oh, would you not?
Well, you were saying that like you coming out was like a big, like
Right,
a big change for you, and then like that was for me that realization, like okay, I'm gonna have to
right.
be okay with Shafik having his own friends and his own spaces that he wants to
Yeah.
be in. And for you, for me, was it motherhood or marriage or
I think for like with everybody else it was fine, but it was specifically uh, oh my god, I was calling him Van Sand.
Irvin?
Irvin coming into your life, right? I feel like up until then there was still like we were still part of the conversation. We were still part of our lives, and then Irvin came in, and I was like, okay, good. Like this is who she needs to move forward with. There's going to be
Yeah.
new experiences, and I have to be. That was your new friend. I feel like
Yeah.
all the other friends, I was like, it's fine. I'm still going to be the bestie, and I'm still the bestie. But like Irvin took a spot where I was like,
Yep.
okay, like this had to. Like I couldn't at that moment I couldn't say it, but at that point I was like, and now I'm like, oh yeah, like Irvin came and took a spot, and I was like, okay, I have to start
Yeah.
sharing, and then Kaim came in, I was like, I have to start sharing, and like happy to share all these things because I get to still be involved in them. And they're literally black boy magic, like across the board. Your boys and your husband are black boy magic. I don't even
Yeah.
use that word like until recently. Like they're so and to see your love continue and in all three of them, not even like differently, but I see how you as a your family chooses love.
Oh, hold on. Someone's knocking at the door. Yes. 1 second. I think I muted you, but okay. This is what we just talking about Black Boy Magic. Like, check this out.
Oh,
So the kids are outside with Wendy, who's from St. Vincent, and they just made. She said today in St. Vincent is something plantain day, and then they made
oh my god.
Hulk themed Rice Krispie squares. Anyways, this is my life, Shafik.
I love seeing it though. Like I know I don't get to be a part of it, but like how much love does that show? Like your little boys came and said, "Mommy, here's some food for you."
Yeah.
Um, you know, one thing that's great about you and Irvin and your family and the four of you is that you're all about love, but you're okay to have like you're teaching your kids already now to have tough conversations. and
Mm.
learn things as they happen. The best example is like a temper tantrum Kaim had at one point, and I remember the first time being like, "Oh my god, he's growing up," because we hear about these in people, and I never got to see it. And you were like, "Okay, we just
Oh,
have like you like." I'm just gonna sit there, let him have it, and then let's talk about it. What a
yeah.
great approach! I feel like my parents would like just slap me, pick me up, and laugh. Like that's the model I had. But you've specifically chosen not to follow that model, and this new way of
I
moving
wouldn't
things
say
forward.
that. I mean, I lose my shit sometimes. Like,
Right.
obviously, yeah. But as much as possible, like, I made the choice to have kids, and like I've said this, I've said this before to a couple people. Like, this was a selfish choice to have children, and um, you know, they're their own human being. Like, they're a human being. They're their own person with their own way of expressing and feeling. Um, and I have to I have to make the space and get out of their way and just let them be who it is they want to be. Um, but obviously, like, there are times, and it's got nothing to do with who they are, but there are times where, um, when they're having a tantrum where I can have the patience and I can, like, wait it out, and like, all right, let's talk about it. What was that all about? And then there are times where I'm like, let's go. Like, we need to get out the door. Like, now. Like, or I have to work, like, I have to work, or like, don't knock on the door and bring me Rice Krispies. Like, this is not the right time.
Right.
But I am conscious of the fact that, you know I decided to be a mom. I decided to bring, with Irvin, two kids into the world. And so, um, now I have to get out of their way and keep them safe, fed, clothed, do what I can, but let them be who they're going to be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you like one of the things that we talk about but we don't talk about in our community is this idea that like so you married outside of the community, not just outside of the community, you married an African American man
Yep.
who in our past history, we from Kenya or Africa, those are our like we have a different dynamic, power dynamic with them, right? So like
Yeah.
it's our servants, our parents think of like, oh, you can't marry anybody black because
Yep.
that's your servant. You are
Yep.
in like first of all today's inauguration of Kamala Harris, like of the new Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and
Yeah.
living in a world like we just came to 2021 and like Black Lives Matter, and like 3,000 years of repression is coming to surface. You're one married to a man who's been a part of that, and you're raising these boys.
Hmm.
Um, how like what are some things that go through your mind that you didn't think that you didn't think of before that you would
Yeah.
want to let parents
Well,
know? Let
well, a couple things. Like, Irvin is my husband, but I did date someone who was black before I dated
oh,
Irvin.
I forgot that guy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We never had conversations about race. Like, we never
Yeah.
talked about race, and I never had a conversation with him about how safe do you feel walking down the street. Like, so there in that relationship, obviously there wasn't even that safety for us to have that conversation. I can remember, like, one conversation we had, where there was some kind of terrorist attack, and both of us were watching the news, waiting to see, like, is it going to be a black person? Is it going to be a brown person? Like, how's this news story going to play out, right? And I remember us having one conversation like that, and then laughing it off. Like, we'd never talked about race,
Yeah.
um, in about him being black or about me being South Asian. We didn't talk about sex or gender. We didn't talk about those things. Um, so with Irvin, like, Irvin would not identify as African American. He would identify as black.
Okay.
Um, and you know, like, what's changed for me is that, like, he has opened my eyes, and, like, thankfully he's been willing to, like, do the emotional labor and have the conversations with me about what his life is like and how he walks through this world. um you know and there's been times where, like, when we first started dating, where I completely gaslit him, right? Like, he would say something and be like, no, that's not true. Like, no, it can't be like that. The person didn't mean that, right?
Right.
And then eh, you have to sort of you have to believe people when they tell you, like, what their experience is, right? And, like, that's for me a new way to love. Like,
Yes.
and so, just shifting that, like, because, like you said, like, I am guided by this natural inclination I have to love people and care about people. But I've had to, with Irvin, like, really think about, love is also just believing people when they tell you what hurts, what feels good, that's different than what you're used to or what you think it is, right? You have
Right.
to be open to all forms of what love is. And then you have to be open to all forms of what love is not in order to do that, right? And so for me, because of the work that I do, I get to see a lot of good. I get to see a lot of the good in people, and I don't always get exposed to a lot of the bad in people. Whereas for Irvin in his life, like that's just been his reality. Like, you know, always being on the defensive, like always, um, he'll always tell me like, you are not aware of your surroundings, right? Like even if I go to get groceries, super like, be aware of your surroundings,
Right.
you know. And that's because that is like that's his natural, that's his way of growing up. Like that's how he's had to
Right.
experience the world. So what is like for me is, and for us as a couple, is that we both bring like different experiences to raising two Black boys. And I have to let him lead sometimes and he has to let me lead sometimes. And for two people who are like personalities are like to both be natural leaders, like there's a lot of conflict there, like for
Right.
sure, you know. Do it my way, no, do it my way, like, you
Right.
know, like there's definitely a lot of conflict there. So, and we talk about it, we figure it out. We haven't figured it out, like we're not perfect at it. And there's things that we'll never agree on, but I respect him. And you know, I think he's like, I mean, like I say this is like, you know, we could talk about him for an hour. Like he's my favorite person in the world. Like he's a wonderful human being. um yeah, like he's just I'm so lucky to um have him in my life for however long I have him in my life. Like, yeah.
And I have to agree with everything you've said about him. I think also I think we're so lucky via you to have access to him because he brings perspectives that we would never think of. Like I was thinking, oh yeah, I always joke that I have a Black friend, our friend Oren, who we grew up with at the same
Or,
time,
yeah, yeah,
right? But also
yeah,
has a very different experience than Irvin does because he was grew
yeah.
up in Canada in Scarborough, and maybe now in our lives we're having more tougher conversations or able to reach those points. But Irvin was already like, I think the conversations we're having here as Canadians, Irvin was having them at the age of 10 in the States because
Yeah.
life looked so different from him.
Well, he
And I,
wasn't having them. He was
oh,
living
he
that
was living them.
experience, right? Like we're having conversations that we don't have to have, right? Because we've been
Right.
privileged to not have to have them, right? So for me, it's a new conversation. For him, it's just this is my way of life, right? Whereas for him, he'll ask me questions about, you know, what it's like being a woman or like wanting to like, you know, um, like we have a lot of conversations about sexism. We have a lot of conversations about um, what is personal safety, right? Like what does it feel like for me and my personal safety? Like what's it like for him walking down the street? What's it like for me walking down the street?
Yeah.
He's worried about being profiled, right? Like he's worried about how people look at him because of his skin. You know, when I walk down the street, I'm not necessarily thinking of that. I might be thinking about my own as a woman. You're and that, like, you're thinking, for me in my experience, you're thinking, am I going to get raped if I go down this street? Am I going to, you know, if I wear
Yeah.
this or if I do that? I walk down the street in a different way than he does. So we talk about that, like, definitely. um, I think because we have our kids and because they're boys and they'll be men, we talk about that aspect of it more right now.
Right.
We have granddaughters, you know, if they choose, if women are who they choose to love in the future, and that, you know, we have other women in the house, like that might be conversation that comes up. We talk about what is relevant to us right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for always sharing that kind of stuff with me because I think it brings a point into my brain that I if I could take, there's so much privilege in just being male and then being a brown male who grew up in Canada that I
Yeah.
don't even think about.
Yeah. Yep.
But to have those, like, to have you and Urban talk about them, and that's something I love about your relationship. I feel like from the get go, from that first time you met at the YMCA conference, conversation has been such a big part of. It's been the core value of your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like you both got the same book to read and then answer the questions.
Yep.
What, like, I was thinking of like when, like, I guess Irving just came like that. Like it's great that he came, like, I want to say he came that way, but also I've seen your heartbreak and I've seen the
Yeah.
yahoos you've been with before that allow us to be in
Oh,
this space. You know,
I wouldn't say that. Just not the right people for me.
all
Yeah.
right. I want to call them
Yeah.
yahoos because I think that's so much more fun. It also reminds me that you dated other people outside of Irvin. Like I literally forgot about all of them, and I know I've been a part of all of them, but I forgot them at all.
Yeah. And
Like,
and he did too, right? And I think that's what like when we met, it's funny because we talk about like, oh, what if we had met when we were in college, or what if we'd met earlier?
yeah,
We might not have we might not have seen things in each other at that point, right? And I think we both met at the right exact right time,
yeah,
right? In the right context, in the right setting. Um, Everything happened for us, I believe, like in a great way. Like it unfolded and it happened in a great way. I think if I had met him any sooner, um, I don't know. I don't think my heart would have recognized him. Like if I had met him any sooner. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, as someone who was a bystander to all this, I don't think you were ready because you went on a date before him with some musician guy, and I remember you being like, "I'm not ready,"
yeah.
and then Irvin came in, and there was like you were still like you were still like on water with it, but you weren't 100% in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Frida Kahlo exhibit at the AGO where
Oh gosh,
things had happened,
yeah.
and I remember like we sat there, and we had this conversation, and you were like you were 100% in. Whatever
Yeah.
was gonna happen, you were gonna figure it out. But this was the man, and you had never said that in all those years, and like through the time to the people, you had never
Are we
said
done?
that. We're done. I know it's so quick.
Oh my god, it feels like 5 minutes. All
Like,
right, see you later.
well, I want to like. Do you remember? Do you remember the feeling you had in the moment where you knew Irvin was the one?
I knew it the second I saw him. Like there was something like and I say this to him, like I don't think it was the same for him, but and it was in my wedding vows, like the day that I met him, like my physically, like I had a reaction, not because he's like gorgeous, but like it beyond that, like there was
Right.
something in his spirit. Um, there's something about him that um, where I felt like very, very safe. Like
Right.
I don't know. I don't think that I've had like a safety, and I don't mean safe like he can protect me, like a safety and like I'm safe enough to be myself here. I can completely be myself. Is Raheem okay?
I think he's got his headphones on. He's listening to the inauguration because this is like he loves politics. This is his
Yeah.
day,
All right.
and I'm like, oh my god, JLo and Gaga are playing. So, so
It's so funny. Anyways, I like when I say safe, I don't mean like I need protection safe. I mean, although he does also make me feel that way, I feel like I can just be who I am.
right.
I don't need to do anything different. And here is someone who's just going to recognize me for who I am, completely. Um, yeah, I don't know why. Like all he said like something to me like in our first meeting. I was like, "Are you going to the young professionals event or something?" There was it's not like he said something like, "Can I get the door for you?" or anything like that. Like there's just something about his nature and in him that I just felt that right away. Yeah, I don't think he did, but I definitely felt that right away. And in my mind, like I remember looking at him and being like, "Oh, there you are. Like there you are. Not like, my soulmate, whatever. Just there you are. Oh, hey, there you are." Like that's how I felt. And I knew that you're going to be in my life somehow. Like we're going to be amazing friends, or I never thought like, oh, we're going to be married and have kids. I wasn't going there.
Right.
I wasn't like love at first sight. I just knew, oh, you are supposed to be in my life. Like, yeah, yeah.
Um, something you said earlier in the conversation was like the only person like you are who you are. You're going to travel with for the rest of your life. That one person in your life you're always going to be with is you. And I remember, like, I think you're underselling how much work you did to get to that point. Like, I think you met Irvin
Mm-hmm.
after 7 years of work. Like 7 years sounds like a long word,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like like 7 years of mark. There was so much happened. You grew
3
so
years
much.
in between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did so much work in between fights. I think like again, people just see fights and they're like, "Oh my god, she's great." I'm like, they don't see all like you put in so much work, and you put in so much work knowing
Yeah.
who you are, where you stand, and I think that is what not what brought Irvin, but you were so comfortable in also yourself. Like you knew that even if Irvin wasn't there, you could take care of yourself because you knew yourself so well, and I think that's
It's
what
so
allowed
funny
Irvin to show
because
up.
yeah, he says to me like when I proposed to you, it's really funny because he says to me like when I proposed to you, I was fully prepared for you to be like no. I'm good. Like, he was like, I'm fully prepared for you to be like, no, I'm good. Like, we can
Yeah.
just continue, like, how we are. I'm good. Like, um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
don't
But it's
believe
funny,
that.
Shafik, because yeah. And it's like, yeah, I did do the work. And I don't talk about that. Like, I only talk about that with, you know, I don't know, like you just do it, right? Like you don't have to like
Right.
Instagram it and like snap it, and everyone doesn't need to know everything about your life. Even though I think because I am active on social media, people probably think that they know
Yeah. They
everything about
don't
my
know.
life. They don't know. And honestly, like a lot of me being on social media is more because my family is so big and everywhere, and it's a way for us to stay in touch. Like when I'm on social media, like that's who I'm really looking for. Like I'm looking for my family and my friends who I can't see all the time.
Right.
That's like my purpose for being there and sharing with them. So people, and I'm conscious of that too when I'm looking at other people's social media. Like I know what I'm on there doing,
Yeah.
so I can't look at their feeds and be like, oh, their life is perfect. Like their life is what they want you to see. But yeah, you are somebody who knows about all of like the day-to-day work. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think, like, thank you for being one of my biggest teachers, for consistently showing me no matter where I am in life, you're going to have a tough conversation with me. That doesn't mean you don't love me any less, and that we're just going to figure out and journey through this. And you also know when to be like, I'm just going to leave him alone and let him figure this
Yeah.
out, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
Then we'll come back to it. So thank you for, like, we're taping early for the month of February. It's the month of love, and I love being in your life. I love seeing how you are guided by love, and how that is somewhere I aspire to be and want to keep going with. And I know for the rest of my life, I'm going to have this with me. So I'm so grateful for that.
Well, Shafiq, you're already there, right? Like you don't need to aspire to be anywhere. Like where you are right now, like you're already there. You are love, and I love you.
Thank you. I love you. And thank you for saying that. That brings me down a little bit, which is nice. Which I think is what I'm working on this year. It's like, I'm just where I am and it's fine. I don't have to. 42. It's then, oh my God,
Better than fine. It's
43.
beautiful.
Yeah.
You are where you are is better than fine. It's beautiful, right? Like you're wanting to reach out and and love and connect and journey with people. So I love you for that.
I love you back for that. Thank you. One of the things you always do, which is great, and I think people should do that, is like when you respond back to text, you're always like, "I love you." Like, there's something about starting off with the word "I love you" makes, like, whatever comes after that, I'm okay with. Because
Yeah,
even if you're like,
I do.
yeah, and I love it. And I know you've done with like anybody in our lives or your lives we talk about. They're like, "Yeah, this is how fun." Like, one thing that is so similar with you and Michelle Obama is that she says that no matter where she is, she's exactly the same person. She
Oh,
could be in the White House.
I thought you were gonna say it was our arms, like
Yeah.
the definition. But sorry. What were you
Yeah.
gonna say? What were you
Is
gonna
that she says this in Becoming, that no matter where she is, if she's Michelle as Flotus, or she's Michelle in the garden with you, she's the same person, and
say?
you've managed to do that. So no matter who you are, where you are, because I've seen you in work environments, you're the same person.
Yeah.
So there's no, I'm trying to be this here, I'm trying to be this. Is you're like, I mean this here,
Mhm.
and that allows consistency in everything you share and put out.
That's
So
me.
yeah.
Thank you for loving me, Shafik.
Oh my God, thank you. I can't wait to keep doing it for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up, I'm going to throw one word at you, and then you just give me one word that connects to that for you.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Kayam,
Oh gosh. Sensitive.
Malik,
Comedian.
Irvin,
Mine.
love,
Us.
family.
Ah. I don't think there's a word. Oh gosh. It's everything. It's everything.
Volunteering.
Possible.
Well, I want to thank you and thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us. I love that we got a chance to, in this month of love, talk about love and let people know that being guided by love is simple and you just have to do it. And it takes hard work and tough conversations, but you just do it. Wishing you all a great month. Mwah.
Mwah. Now let's go watch Kamala Auntie, okay?
Yeah, let's go to Kamalanti right away.